Welcome in, guys. Episode number 4 of GRP is brought to you by Outlaw Chassis Engineering. As always, we've got a little bit of a hectic week this week at Savory Speedway. If you guys hadn't noticed, this is about Savory Speedway and all the things that goes on there. A lot of excitement this week. But like I was saying, Outlaw Chassis Engineers is the reason why we're here, and I want to thank Brett and the guys over there. They are race car chassis, body, and suspension specialists. There's no reason in 2023 that you shouldn't have a decent-looking car, a good handling car, because there's too many people out there like Brett and the guys that you can just take your car to and drop it off, and they'll get it handling. They'll get it looking good. They'll get it looking right. The best part about them are they're not the type of people that kind of know it all. They do, but that's not how they treat you. So if you go over and see Brett and the guys, and let them know I sent you, or give Brett a call at 205-522-7759. Let them know I sent you, and tell them, hey, look, the car's not handling. Car's not doing this, and they're going to ask you some questions, and they're going to be able to help you scale your car out, see, okay, does what you're saying line up with what's going on with the chassis? And if it is, they're going to be able to help you. If it's not, they're going to work with you to figure out why the car's not doing what you want it to do, or even try to pick your brain even more thoroughly. Are you overdriving the corner? Are you underdriving? They've been around racing long enough to know, and they've been around racing long enough to help you. And there's no reason why, like I said, in 2023, you shouldn't be able to get your car at least handling close to how you want it to handle, because there's experts like Brett and the guys out there that can help you. So that's Outlaw Chassis Engineering. Follow them on Facebook. See some of the work they've done. If you look at their old page, the old page has the monster on it. That's what I'll call it. You'll see it. It's going to be the thumbnail of this video. So if you haven't saw it, you can go to my Facebook page and look up that thumbnail, or see that I actually followed the page. It has the rocket launcher trailer with 3 cars on it. So that's their car hauler. If you see them at the racetrack and you're just curious, what does it take, to get your car right, they can help you out. They're going to be reasonable with you, especially if you let them know that you heard it from me, and they can get you running up front. So give Brett and the guys a call. All right, so personally thank you to Brett and the guys for what y'all have done for me. So we've really got the car dialed in. This was a crazy week, so y'all see that I did take some notes, and I have to take notes there to make sure I get you the right information for Outlaw Chassis Engineering. It was more than just a race this week. A bunch of open wheels showed up. Now, are they showing up for the bounty? I don't know that the money for the bounty's up enough, or if they just showed up. Barry Martin put on a clinic again there. There was a lot of controversy throughout a couple of classes. The Road Warrior, all the way to the very last minute this week. If you missed out on it, I don't know what you was thinking, but you got to start staying for this Roadrunner race. It's almost like our division of road warriors, road runners, is one of the most entertaining classes that you can watch, because there's good old boys in street cars and minivans and Chargers and Mustangs, and don't even know what all the cars are that's out there. And they're anything from front wheel drive to rear wheel drive, but they're V6 American made cars. And they're putting on a great race as well. And there was some helmet throwing going on there. So y'all stick with me through this. If I get anything factually incorrect and you can prove it to me, send it to me. I will correct it. There was a lot that went on. So I tried to keep everything based on what I know was facts. And if it wasn't facts, y'all just let me know. But so let's get started. The Buzz race it wasn't as dramatic. The Buzz race was definitely not as dramatic as some of the other races were. But what happened was Chris Hill showed back up with his number 13 car that last week was deemed illegal because of weight placement. Now, do I like the call? of the weight placement or the weight adding. I don't. I don't like a mid-season rule change in any division. Now, but here's the thing. That's not a mid-season rule change by the, excuse me, I was going to reach over and grab a rule book, but I can't reach it from where I'm at. Don't want to ruin it. So, it's in that rule book that weight may be added at any time. And I think it's happened before. I think it happened to Brandon Holly before. It's happened to some cars before, and they want that weight placed to the right front of the car. Now, I think what Chris Hill did Saturday night was exactly what needed to happen. He came back out and hammered them. I don't know how y'all watch or how if you're watching the races on Facebook, it may be harder because of the noise and the background noise, but if you're at the racetrack and you're standing in the corners, you can tell when somebody goes from hammering to riding. And Chris Hill got out front and he rode. It doesn't matter. I think you can add 500 pounds to his car, and maybe not to the right front, but you could probably say, hey, add 500 pounds to his car and he can still win. I think he's just getting the car around the track good. Now, that was one aspect of it. Now, also, I heard some people talking last week, Jonathan Eustace won. He will run in the back next week because he starts in the back. Wasn't the case, guys. Jonathan drove back up to the front all the way through the field. Pretty decent field of cars. And it's been tough to pass. It has been tough to pass for cars like Jimmy Hudson and the 7 cars. Some of these cars are just fast enough that they're really dangerous. So if you get stuck behind them, you have a hard time getting back to the front. And that's pretty much today across the field because everybody has people like Brett and the guys getting their cars to turn. And if their cars are turning just a little bit better each week that they show up, they're getting harder and harder to pass. So Chris Hill has shown he can start in the rear, start in the front. Now Jonathan Eustace has shown he can as well. So I think they put themselves on the pyramid of probably 2 of the top 5 that have an opportunity every week in that Buzz class to run up front. There is a huge problem in this class right now, and it has to do with people talking that do not drive race cars. If I could squash one thing that couldn't happen would be people talking in the grandstands to drivers personally. There was a fight in the grandstands, or I wouldn't even call it a fight. I don't know what happened, but there was an altercation in the grandstands, and I don't think there wasn't any life-threatening or no reason you shouldn't come to the racetrack. It wasn't anything that was just flat out inappropriate. I mean, it's inappropriate. If you put your hands on somebody, it's inappropriate. Running your mouth, cussing, yada, 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 it's part of it. But as far as getting it to the point where people have to put their hands on somebody, or they do put their hands on somebody, I don't know what happened, but it's never a good time to do that. Get your disagreements out and then move on. But shoving, punching, fist thrown, whatever, never a good time for that. But anyways, quit talking about these people like they don't have family in the same grandstands that you're in. Quit. I mean, this is my opinion. If you don't agree with it, that's okay. We have our differences of opinion. But so, like, say my mom and my wife and my daughters in the stands. By far not people that's going to jump on somebody. My mom, my wife, of course, with my daughter there's zero. She has not came to the racetrack yet. My daughter hadn't, but my wife and mother, say they're sitting up there and somebody's running their mouth. My parents are not or my mom and my wife are not the type of people to say something back to somebody for yada, yada, yada. But some of these people are. And you put yourself, if you're up there yelling profanity and beating somebody's kid down or beating somebody's husband down or beating somebody's brother down to the point that somebody thinks they have to say something back to you, what are you even doing? You're taking personal attacks on people by calling them this stuff that doesn't make any sense. So that's just a little rant for me with the Buzz class. Quit acting like these people aren't humans outside of that race car. When you yell, hey, number, I don't know hey, number 77 or whatever somebody's number is, you're a such and such. Well, that's a personal attack. You don't even know that person. You have no clue who that person is, and because they bumped your car or your cousin's car or your third cousin's sister's mama's brother, they bumped that car, that doesn't give you a right to attack them personally. So kind of think about that before you get to that racetrack. Cheer your driver on, and hey, boo the other driver. Boo them down. But some of the things y'all are saying, that it's even on Facebook Live, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't make a lick of sense why you're talking about somebody that way, because most of these people in these cars are 8 to 5 hard-working people. We all go to work every day to come home and put another 40 hours in a week to work on a race car to come out there and entertain you. And what are you doing? Like, just cut out some of the crap that goes on with what things get said. I mean, have your opinion. You are 100% entitled to your opinion. But they are 100% entitled to sock you in your lip if they don't like it. So just remember that when you're out there sitting in the grandstands yelling and banging on somebody's family members. Now on to banging. Carter Murray races in the Pure Street, and that was the next class. That was a good one. Y'all liked it, didn't you? If you're watching on YouTube or if you're just listening, sometimes when I pause, I have a good reaction to my jokes. So if you don't like them, leave that in the comments. Anyways, one of the best races that we've seen from 3 of the youngest drivers. Outlaw Chassis Engineering has the video of these 3 guys going 3 wide. They took out the 5 car and the 9 car was out front, and then out of nowhere comes the 20. And when I say he was running, he was absolutely fired all the way up, jumps underneath the 5 car, 9 cars outside. They come through 3 and 4, almost like they're all running their same individual line. And 1, 2, 3 wide through the center of 3 and 4 and off the corner, and out takes the 20. I mean, he takes off like a rocket. Wow. That one came along. I honestly at one point thought that one of the veteran drivers was driving that car. Carter Murray gets, he's in the middle, gets by the 9 car, and then just slowly walks the 20 car back down in 4 or 5 laps and passes him. That's just his smoothness, his ability, I believe, to stay calm, because most of the time if you get past that fast, of course, we're all going to keep digging, but then you start overdriving the car to try to get back to him. But Carter and the 20 and 9 car, they took out. Ran a really good race. Buddy Akins came and ran a pretty good race. He had to start in the back. Unfortunate for the 76 car, Hunter Dawkins. I don't know what happened, but he was out on the outside pole and didn't even start the race. I believe something happened before the race even started. So most likely something in the firing. Somebody said it was popping. So most likely something in the firing. But Carter won that race, and it was a pretty good race. So those 3 put on a really good show. Now, the mini mod. I'm going to be speaking on myself here, and it does get kind of out there when I'm speaking on myself. But I do want to speak on the situation that happened during the practice with myself and the 48 car. That's Bodie's car, and Bodie's been around the racetrack a long time. If y'all watched some of the other videos, I've always had good respect, or I've had respect for Bodie. And Brandon Burchett's been driving the car. Now, Brandon Burchett is probably one of, in the last 5 or 6 years, I would say one of the best drivers that's came up and had never drove, before. He started out in Road Warrior, if I'm not mistaken, drove some buzz cars, and then he come to Pony Stock. So he put on a really good show in that pony car at Jasper with us a bunch of times. And so last Saturday night he ran second to my dad, but they was all really close and we couldn't get to him. Nobody ran up front with him. So Devin led. My dad ran second most of the race. The 48 car made some moves, got up to third. The 7 car ran great. So what I did was I picked one of those cars to go out and practice with in the second practice, because in the first practice the car wasn't doing what I thought it needed to do. So I go out behind Brandon, and coming down the front straightaway, most of y'all's practiced at Sayre. Jordan cut the light off and was going to tell us to go. Well, the cars ahead of Brandon takes out. And so when Brandon takes out, I felt like when they took out, Brandon was going to take out. So I went ahead and smashed it to the floor, and I got into the rear of him. So 10 or 15 feet roll on, and it felt to me like he slammed on the brakes. And it was just one of those scenarios where I didn't think anything else of it. So, but after practice, Bodie was aggravated, and we talked to each other, and apparently with the racing and everything, nothing happened during the race. So apparently it's good, it's squashed, it's whatever. But I'm gonna put out this for me. There's 4 or 5 people that I know have it 100% love me to death, which means all they want to do is keep their eyes on me. You're not bothering me. You're not going to bother me. You're not going to push me to any kind of limits. I'm not going to do anything crazy. I'm not bringing back out old me. I'm not there to tear cars up. I'm not going to be there to tear cars up, and I'll do exactly what I did last year. If it got to the point where I feel like I got to come over there and squash something, I'm going to park my car and I'm going to stay at the house. Now, at the same time, there's that point where you get to, in my mind, where how many times do you get put on the porch before you have to come off the porch? Now, for me, what I don't want to do is get into any kind of confrontation where I feel like I have to come off the porch again. And I've come off the porch and I've told somebody, wherever you go race, I will come and tear your car up. And I 100% meant that, and I did exactly what I meant. I've snapped. I've ran over somebody under caution, and that's not who I want to be. It's not who I'm on here vocalizing that we want short track racing about. But if 5 or 6 if people start, oh, well, one person does something, then another person does something, then another person does something, at some point you have to say, it's either you're gonna have to squash it, or it's gonna keep happening. And nobody wants that. I don't want that. I haven't acquired the things that I've acquired to tear them up. I don't want to tear other people's stuff up. So here's what I extend. If you feel like I've wronged you, the best way to get the worst out of me is to come and yell at me. I'm not going to take that. The best way to get the best out of me, which I think some people over there know, and they do, and I'm gonna say Joseph Allred has clipped it 100%. Let's talk about it. Let's talk about why you feel the way you feel. We're not always going to agree, but we can agree that that we don't agree, and you don't have to yell. You don't have to get all tied up, and you don't have to worry about it. You don't have to lose sleep over me at night, because it isn't that serious to me. It's not really that serious. I want to win some races, and I want to race, and that's what I'm going to do. You're not going to bother me. So that squashes that. We qualified second behind the 25 car. I think the way it laid out there would have been 25, myself, the 7, and then Adam in his 4 car. So that's how we started the race, and we was able to get by Adam. There was some contact. I guess the scenario is coming off the corner there was most of the time where we made contact. So getting back in the gas, I don't feel like I was getting back in the gas earlier than him, but I was trying to judge it to be able to, and there was some contact. So it wasn't the cleanest. It definitely was not the cleanest, and not the prettiest picture. And if I get moved in the future, it's part of it. I understand. He's going to be faster than me at points, and I'm going to be faster than him, I hope, at some points. But the way I see it is, if he moves me in a couple weeks, we're racing for it, and he moves me out of the way, then it's just part of it. It's just what's going to happen, and I thoroughly expect it to happen. But there's some really good cars in our class, and you got to get them when you can get them, and that's what I did. So I did rough him up a little bit, but it wasn't anything to try to spin him or knock him out of his position. He's still able to run second, and the 25 ran third. So that was a pretty good race with us. So Mod Light, I want to say the Mod Light ran next, and the 71 car won. I don't like that division. It's not very entertaining. The only time it's entertaining is when they're flipping, and I don't like to see anybody wreck like that. So it's not very entertaining to me. But 71 did win, and he put on a clinic. Jeremy Williams was not there. He was racing somewhere else, maybe Pensacola. We get to the Super Street where things get probably the most chaotic. Well, somebody got pretty chaotic in the Road Warrior, but the most total overall incident I think that people's here to see would be the Super Street race where Austin Odom leads with the 30 car following him probably most of the race. There was the best battle of driving there, and it all broke out on the last lap where they go under the white and Austin Odom's leading, and that was the last I could see of it until I watched the video. So Melanie Umber had a pretty good view of it. The 30 car did have some momentum coming up and was connected to the back bumper of the 40 and shoved him off into the corner. And then there was a release date, and he released him, and he spun out coming out of the corner. I don't know what to think of that scenario. What I can say is Sayre didn't see it as bad enough to throw out the 30 car. So the 30 car won the race. The 40 car finished last. I think it's a weird precedence to set. The 30 car did make contact with the 40. Everybody agrees with that. Even Chase said it over the intercom that the 30 car felt like the 40 car was blocking him. That's Chase Sargent and Austin Odom. I know them both very well. I've raced with Chase a lot. And when I say a lot, about a full season of me and him being either one in front or one behind, or, and most of the time we was in the top 2 or 3. He's really smooth, really hard to pass. He runs a really good race, very smooth. Austin also in that race had a really good car and was able to stay there with him. Now, I'll say this. Austin was probably not the fastest car, but I don't think Chase ever stuck a nose under him. So the push off into the corner come off of a really good run out of 3 and 4 that I got to see, and he was right there on him. Luckily, there's video. I got to see the video. What I would ask is, Sayre, is contact that causes the caution not what you put people in the rear for. Now, I'm not saying Chase did anything wrong because he did release. He released off of him. He didn't shove him all the way through the spin. So that's just it's a hard road to hoe if you're Sayre, because now you got to make judgment calls on times that people touch people. It's always been in the past, if you spin them, you're out. But it was a tough one. I mean, that was a tough call to see. Once I watched the video, it still wasn't clear cut to me what my opinion was. There was contact. I think contact broke the 40 free, but did the 40 throttle up and create the spin on his own, overcorrect and spin out to the right, actually is what he did, but it brought him all the way around and then spun around. So I'm not against the bump and run. I'm not against the shove them off in the corner, let them lose it and pass them, but not the spin. But the spin sometimes comes from just overcorrection, like what happened there, or undercorrecting and taking it back up the track. It's a wild one. That was a wild one. I want to know y'all's thoughts. I would like for y'all to put in the comments if there's one thing I want to really hear what you think is, should the 30 have went to the rear? And was that just a classic short track move to try to get by the 40? I know there was controversy after the race, and the 40 car came around there, and it didn't look like in the video there was heavy contact to the right front of the 30 car, but it was apparently because the 30 car got put on the trailer with the record. So is there repercussions for that from Austin? And can the 30 car come back just as fast? Because they've been really good. They've set some lightning fast lap times during the qualifying lap. And if anybody knows, you got to be smooth, you got to be consistent. They've been putting down some really good laps. I guess my curiosity from that whole point, the whole point of the putting somebody to the rear when they spin out, is that you don't cause the caution. You don't wreck the guy in front of you to win the race. That could happen almost every week in every division. So last lap, spin them out, you win, they lose. That's not something that has ever been able to go on. Like I said, I've raced with Chase a lot, so I don't know I don't know my thoughts on it completely. There's definitely if there was cause enough that Austin hit him, then Austin felt like he got done wrong. And that's twice. So that's twice that they was battling for the lead, close to the end of the race, and the 30 was on the giving end to the 40. Now, last time I thought that Austin pinched him down, and then, like I said, he got in the throttle and went ahead and spun him up there. But now on this incident, it was a direct push off into the corner, which is a complete different scenario. There was no hooking. Kind of wasn't any hooking on the other one. He backed out, let him collect it, and then shoved him on into the corner there too. So if there's one thing out of it, 30's got some motor. He's able to stay with the 40. The 40's fast enough to stay ahead of him. There's going to be some good racing if the 40 car is able to come back and race the next race. I don't know that there was any talk. I didn't hear it. I didn't even go up to get my money. Somebody else brought it down to me because we were standing there talking to somebody else. But my question to y'all as listeners is, what do you see? Was there contact? Because I didn't really, other than the video, get to see the 40 car run over the 30. 2, was it a dirty move? Was the 30's move on the 40 car dirty? I'm still undecided. I don't think I'll ever have an opinion because I've watched the video and I didn't get to see it live in action. But, man, it was a good race. It was a good race right down to the wire. I can see why if Austin feels like he's being shoved around, I could see why he was mad because that's twice with the same car. But at the same time, in Chase's case, he obviously knows he's a little bit faster. So to get around him, sometimes you have to use the horn. So he used the horn twice. So y'all let me know in the comments what y'all think was the case there. Now, into the open wheel. It was almost like Matt Martin's put on his YouTube before the demolition derby in the open wheel. Well, this was an open wheel demolition derby. And to me, a lot of it had to do with Jordan was pretty quick. Obviously, Matt was quick, and everybody behind was running pretty consistent with one another. The biggest deal of the night, the 168, which is Matt Martin, and I got good video of this, was connected to Jordan coming into the corner, just like Chase was to Austin. Shoved him into the corner, which created a spin out coming off the corner. So a lot of people thought that Jordan turned down the track to get back into Matt, but that's not what the video looked like. What it looked like to me was that Jordan's car set and dove down the track. Now, the tires were pointed up the track. The video that I have, you can zoom in on, it did not look malicious. He was completely out of the gas. You never heard him throttle back up. But that was one that I do have an opinion on, that Matt was trying to get a good run on him, shoved him into the corner, and I think it was going to kind of be a shove him out of the way and go by him kind of deal, but it didn't work out that way. If Jordan could have stayed up the track, Matt would have executed the pass, but I think Jordan probably would have went down there and paid him back to get back around him. So how it would have went, I don't know. A lot of people ask me about Barry Martin's restart where he didn't go. That is that's a judgment call by the flagman and the tower to whether or not they think he botched up the start. He didn't go. He was getting pushed. I did speak to Barry. He said, hey, he was in the gas and the car wouldn't go. That's how he was picked up. I wouldn't start a race thinking I was going to get wronged on the start either. So I can't blame Barry for not jumping that start, letting the zero dive under him, and maybe even possibly barely get to him enough at the other end down in 1 and 2 to make a turn on him. So I don't blame Barry for that restart. A lot of people have this hatred for Barry that is they're just stinking up the show. Well, yeah, they are. But Barry wants to race, and it's a track he can race at, and he's going to race. If he spends enough time anywhere, he's probably going to stink up the show there too. So this is just so happens to be the track that you come and watch him stink up the show every week at. So he can go to probably Huntsville, get his time in at Huntsville, and pay his dues up the ladder there, and probably start stinking up the show over there too, just like John Thomas does. John Thomas wins every week. Look at Cody Strickler. Nobody wants to go to Modified Mayhem race because you're just going to get your eyeballs beat out by some guy that's, absolutely thrashing the field. So everybody's got somebody. And just so happen our somebody here at this track is Barry Martin, and because, there's a lot of people, their names on the sign, they get to practice whenever they want to, right? They buy the tires, they supply the fuel, whatever the excuse is, they're whacking people over the head when they come to watch, when they come to race against them. So you're not going to come to the racetrack and beat somebody every now and then. You're not just going to show up every now and then and beat somebody that's raced at that same racetrack for 40 years. If you raced with Adam, you raced with Roy. There was times where my dad was lights out. There's been Chris Frost. You're not just going to show up somewhere and beat people over the head if you just show up every now and then. Now, I think Jordan Key's got the equipment. I think Jordan Key's a good enough driver to do it. And I'm not talking like Jordan and them wasn't talking about Barry or them. I'm just bringing it up. I think that's one of the guys that locally could show up every week and have a chance of outrunning them. He elects to go race other tracks. I think if you keep Justice Evans in the open wheel, like he was in Foots' open wheel, if you kept him in that open wheel, he would have eventually been to the point where he would have cracked them over the head. I have a strong belief in that. If you put Justice in Matt's open wheel or in Barry's open wheel, he can win too. They're good cars, but I also think if you put Justice in any open wheel, he's going to work on it and get it up front. Just like Jeremy Williams, if he showed up every week in whatever class he decides he wants to race in, he's going to be hella hard to beat. That's just certain people can drive anything, and those two guys can. And hey, who's to say Barry doesn't just want to race a mini mod next year and just come over there and thrash us over the head in a mini mod? Nobody can stop him because everybody complained about not wanting to have a no drop down rule. If he opens it up and gets in a pure street, he's going to whack you over the head. So just luckily, he chose to do it in open wheel, and nobody else has to worry about him. Because on his open wheel weeks that he's not racing an open wheel, I wish he'd get a super street and drive one, because I'd like to see him in a full body car. Think it'd be cool. Just like when Matt drove the Sportsman. Certain people have a talent. And I'm sniffing Barry a little bit right here, but if you talk to them, they'll help you out a lot of times. They tell you stuff that you just think's BS and it's not true, but if you talk to those guys and you listen to them, they've been around racing a long time. Like when Mr. Frank, you go over there and sit and talk to Frank, and he'll tell you stuff that if you just try to apply it in your own way, he can get a car to turn around a racetrack. He's been doing it a long time. He's raised two boys to do it, and now his boys has got a nephew and a son that's doing it, and it's going to be tough to beat them a long time. For a long time, if Matt keeps racing, he's going to be just as bad as Barry. So get used to it in open wheel, because if they keep racing them, they're going to be, whatever they race, they're going to be hard to beat at. So I don't want, a lot of people talk about wanting Barry to go somewhere else. I don't want him to. Why would you run off one of your top talents? Why would you run off a top talent? Even, I don't know that he pays his way in the gate, but people love to boo him, so they're coming to watch him. Now, there was a lot of cars Saturday night. I want to see Barry Martin start in the back of all those cars. I don't want to see him start on the front row. That's something that I get tired of seeing. There's no reason why at a short track, I don't care if they race once a month. If you won the last race, put them no better than sixth. That's part of what drives people insane, is they come over there and watch them start on the front row. That's just me telling you the truth, and I think they're grown enough to handle it. There is no reason that if I win in a pony car, I should have to start in the rear, but if they win in an open wheel, they get to start on the front row. I don't care. I spend as much time on my car as they do theirs. Same way with the Super Street, the late model, and all that. If Lee Hansen or Frankie Martin wins one week, I don't care if the race is if it's a regular race. I do like the big race deal. I do like that, because most of the time a big race is double points and all that, so you don't want to set somebody in the deficit over a double points. But on a regular show, they should have to start in the rear. They should absolutely have to start in the rear if they won the week before. Now, that's going to sound bad. Anyway, they make the rules, and that's the way the rules are made. And when I say that, I say Sayre, as a collective, makes the rules that they don't want their open wheels or their late models to have to start in the rear. I don't see how that you sit down and say, hey, we're going to make these guys, because last year it didn't matter. You just come out there and raced and ran and yada, yada, yada. And if you won, you won. If you didn't, you didn't. This year, if you win in a lower division, you got to start in the rear the next week, so you don't stink up the show. Well, what's the difference, right? I mean, you don't stink up the show in the open wheel either, if that's the way to stop you from stinking up the show. Well, somebody said there's no rules in open wheel. There's no rules in a mini mod. All you got to run is a 13-inch tire and a 350 carburetor, and don't stroke it and run it. I mean, like I said, I don't care what Barry races in, but whatever he races in, it should definitely be, he should have to start in the rear. If he wins the week before, he should have to start in the rear. I don't think it changes the outcome. I just think it looks better for the track. That's my personal opinion, and everybody's got one. So, talking about the open wheel, that would be my 2 cents worth in the open wheel modified. That if you're going to make everybody else start in the rear, which what's going to happen is everybody else ain't going to have to start in the rear. If they change a rule, it's going to be that nobody has to start in the rear. They're not going to change it and say that they got to start in the rear. So that's just my opinion. And what's going to happen is the week that Barry wins, Matt's going to start up front, and it's just how it happens. I don't think there's any. I've watched them roll the dice. If Barry or Matt start, if they qualify the fastest, they roll the dice. I mean, if he rolls a 2, what are you going to do? I mean, do you want to put a camera and show everybody that they're starting to? I've heard this complaint, all year, and people want me to address it. And sometimes you feel like if you address something, you may get scolded over it, but I don't think that's the case. Those guys, hard-nosed racers, they qualify on the point. They roll the dice. They roll one or the other one to the pole. Happens. So, open wheel modified. If I had one thing I could change, Barry won this week, he'd start in the rear the next week. Period. That's what would happen. All right, let's move on. Let's go to the Road Warrior, where Fred and Cody, somebody said they took a lick, and then Cody goes running down through there, and that he drives one of those cars. God almighty, I don't remember which car he was in, but anyways, they wrecked. Pretty sure he drives the 39 maybe, or the 83, red 83. But anyway, somebody said he threw his helmet at the guy. Hey, I didn't get to see it. Y'all tell me what happened. Did he throw his helmet at him? Did he not? I know there was a pretty hard lick. I got to see him over there wrecking. But that's a pretty good race. Frank cut out on him and ran pretty good. There was a lot of action in that class, and there always is, and there's always going to be, because it's one of the more equal classes, and the drivers that are in it, like I said before, they kind of keep an eye on, hey, if I can't run camber in my right front, he can't. If I can't, put caster and camber in the front end, they can't. So they check on each other and visually inspect each other, and Bam does a really good job of keeping those cars in line. He checks them with the air gauge every single week. He doesn't let them by. That's really good for that class. It's kind of the beginner class, because Buzz is not the beginner class anymore. Buzz is some of those guys should get mailboxes and P.O. boxes and whatever, and say that this is where they're going to live the rest of their life. So before long, that'll be an open division. Anybody can run it, and you'll have another 4-cylinder division that people can just start out and run in. So Frank won. He won in that van. He outran some really good cars in a van again. So congratulations to Frank, Chris Hill, Carter, Chase Argent, the 71 in the Mod Light, and Barry Martin won in the open wheel. So you guys, let me know what y'all thought of the podcast. Let me know what you thought of the weekend. Share this thing. Share it and get it out there. Let's make sure that at least if you don't love it, your brother may, your cousin may. And hey, look, y'all stay safe. Share this video with your family. Like it if you love it. Dislike it if you don't. Thank y'all for watching, and we'll see you Saturday.